Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Glad you're with us. Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and we're in a new studio today.
Well, we're not here every week, but we are here every week. Yes, we're here in Tulsa this week. We're going to be doing the show from the Tulsa studios of Cox Communications. We really appreciate Randy Carson and all of her folks making us welcome over here, and we're glad to bring you a show today with kind of a special Tulsa flair.
Absolutely. We're going to learn more about the George Kaiser Family Foundation.
Yes, a pillar in this community of Tulsa is the George Kaiser Family Foundation. Does an awful lot of good work for a lot of people, and we're going to find out about it today.
Absolutely. It's all coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
America has been here before, faced with daunting challenges, and we've always found the courage to lead. Foreign oil, greenhouse gases, we have the power to do something about them with American natural gas. Chesapeake is forging ahead, converting our fleets to clean-burning natural gas vehicles, encouraging others to do the same. Welcome to America. Chesapeake, America's champion of natural gas.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
This man is having a heart attack, and he doesn't even know he's at risk. Heart attacks aren't always as dramatic as you see on TV. Gone unchecked, heart disease could crumple everything. A simple heart scan could save your life. Get a $50 heart scan at St. Anthony, the most trusted experts in cardiovascular care.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to welcome back to the set of The Verdict a Tulsa native and a good friend of ours, Ken Levit. Ken is the Executive Director of the George Kaiser Family Foundation. Ken is a native of Tulsa, did his undergraduate work at Brown University. After his undergraduate work, he served as press secretary to then Senator David Bourne for a couple of years, then went on to law school, graduated with honors from the Yale Law School, and was an editor of the Yale Law Journal. He then went into private practice with the firm I'm familiar with, Crowe & Dunlevy, in the Tulsa office. He served with the Tulsa office for a couple of years, and then the CIA called him, came and arrested him, I think, but brought him to Washington to serve as special counsel to CIA Director George Tenet for a couple of years. Then he came back to his hometown of Tulsa, where he served 4 or 5 years as president of the University of Oklahoma Tulsa facility. Then became the executive director of the George Kaiser Family Foundation, and has been doing that for the last 5 years, and that's what we're here to talk to Ken about. Ken, sure glad to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. Appreciate
Welcome back
that.
to the show. It's
well,
good to have you back.
It's good. It's been a little while, but it's fun to be back with you guys.
A lot of great work comes out of the George Kaiser Family Foundation. Kind of give people an overview of those, for those who might not be familiar with some of the projects.
Well, the foundation is a great opportunity really for the state of Oklahoma and the community in Tulsa and the region. George Kaiser's family came to the United States, came to Oklahoma in the wake of the Nazi takeover of Germany. His dad actually was a judge in Germany, and when the Nuremberg laws passed, he no longer could pursue his career in Germany. And Oklahoma welcomed an immigrant family. Tulsa welcomed an immigrant family. And the family's done well. George has done well. And he created the George Kaiser Family Foundation a few years ago, about 5 years ago, and put significant resources there. The main aspiration, really in a phrase, is to intervene in the cycle of poverty at the earliest possible stage to help the next generation have a real shot at the American dream. And we try to make it investments with the best return possible to achieve those goals.
So it sounds like it's kids or parenting or some combination in general?
I think wherever science and data can show us where you can meaningfully intervene in the cycle of poverty, give kids a good chance. We've learned that earlier is better. Education is always the best ladder for the future. So early education has proven to be a central part of our work. Early intervention in healthcare, even in the fetal time frame, as early as possible, and certainly in the weeks and months after birth, and vaccinations, et cetera, intervening early in healthcare. Then we're also involved in the broad spectrum of social services support. You're not always going to be able to intervene in the cycle of poverty. You're going to have to deal with poverty as it confronts us in our community. So we give to the social service agencies that you need to give to, that help people. And then last, we are involved in a number of projects around the subject of civic renewal, civic revitalization, the kind of projects that Oklahoma City's pursued in a public-private way with maps, and similarly in Tulsa with Vision 2025. So those are kind of, a handful of major buckets of the work.
Well, that's an awful lot of buckets or an awful lot of project to be dealing with. On the drawing board now, or I should say in operation now, about how many projects are you dealing with?
Well, it's an interesting question. We have a process where about once a year we sit around a table. Our board, our donor, George Kaiser is our donor, but our board is our three other guys, Phil Lakin, Fred Dorward, and Phil Froelich. George Kaiser is actually not on our board of directors, but he's an advisor and a donor. We care a lot about what he thinks. We aspire to make him happy, but he doesn't actually govern the foundation. But we sit around and we come up with a top 10 list of projects, and we sort of say to ourselves, what are the biggest problems afflicting our community, especially problems that other communities our size might not have quite as badly. And if that's the case, well, maybe we ought to be able to make a difference if we wisely invested our money. So we come up with a top 10 list, and they call it a top 10 list after every meeting. I look at it, there are about 23 projects on it rather than just 10. But early child education, expanding the kind of work that's being done again around the state with the EduCare and early education movement is a significant one. Looking at K-12 education, charter school development, better evaluation of teachers and rewarding the good ones, mentoring those that need to get better, and taking action to exit those that are not strong. That's another key project. Another one that we've been working on the past couple of years, which we can talk about more if you're interested in, is Oklahoma's very high rate of female incarceration. I think everybody who looks at that problem and says we're twice the national average, the first question is why? How can that be? And then next is what can we do to change that, especially when so many 70% are nonviolent, 80% have young children. There's got to be a better way to deal with that problem than putting folks in such an expensive solution as prison for 7-10 years for a methamphetamine conviction. There's smarter ways to do it, and we're finding some better ways.
Yeah, I want to get into that a little bit later in the show,
Sure.
A little more specifics, because I know you've had substantial progress this year on some of those efforts. Let me ask you about, you kind of said it quickly, I think, but I wish you don't mind saying it again. What is the mission of the George Kaiser Family Foundation?
The mission is, we're most focused on, this is kind of, I think of it as the aspirational goal of intervening as early as possible in the cycle of poverty to help the next generation have an equal shot at the American dream.
How many employees do you have?
We have about a dozen folks. Now, we take advantage of a lot of volunteers. We have a fair number of consultants, and we're able to leverage the generosity of some companies that give us some backup support for our human resources, et cetera. But we have about 12 people, and about half of us are real program-oriented. A healthcare person, a social services person, an education person, and a couple people who do investments. We have to obviously make sure we're investing our money wisely around the world and in the United States to make money so we can give it away reasonably.
I get a sense that, well, I think myself perhaps and others think of a foundation as just giving the money and then just forgetting about it.
Right.
We think that's a good, wise project. Here's some money, go do the best you can. Do you stay hands-on or stay involved in?
We're a very activist-oriented philanthropy, and that clearly reflects the values of our donor, our board of directors. I think, and it's probably not exactly fair to call it old style and new style, but a classic role is just you open the mail, you see what grant applications are there, you determine which are good projects and fulfill good civic needs. We officially don't accept applications. Really what we do is again, as I mentioned, we kind of sit around the table and say, okay, what are the problems that we want to make a difference on? And then we say to ourselves, okay, what's the strategy for each problem? Who are our partners? Who's doing good work? Are we going to partner with the University of Oklahoma on this project? Should we reach out to Oklahoma State University on this project? We've got an important partnership with Oklahoma Christian in the Edmond area. So we look for the partners, and then we develop the strategy, and we try to make things happen with our money that would not otherwise happen. And I think we're realizing that objective to a high degree, and I think as long as our donor is out there working us and our board is aggressive about it, we'll keep doing that. I think the danger with a lot of foundations is 50 years after the death of the donor, of the engine of the wealth, the entrepreneurial power, does the foundation still have that level of intensity? Usually not. So I love my job. I love the opportunity that I have to be in this early stage with these entrepreneurs, with these donors, because they want to make sure that every dollar is making a big difference, and that's the challenge that I get to live with.
Let's take a break. Ken Levit is with the George Kaiser Family Foundation. They fund a lot of wonderful projects throughout this region. We want to talk about early childhood education, K through 12, when we get back. You're watching The Verdict. We'll be right back.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence, and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
Every time our country imports energy, we're saying we've lost confidence in our own.
But Oklahomans know, under the land of the free lies the energy to be brave.
Advanced technology has led to vast discoveries of oil and natural gas that have doubled America's supply estimates.
Using one well to do the work of 10 in half the time, we're proving that America's best answers will always come from inside our borders.
Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, advancing our state, empowering our nation.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Ken Levit is our guest. He's with the George Kaiser Family Foundation. When we left, We promised our viewers we would check in on early childhood education and K through 12. What is the George Kaiser Family Foundation doing in those two areas specifically?
We're really we're focusing greatly on early child education, and again, it's a little bit of the maybe the banker and the investor in George Kaiser. Where do you get the biggest bang for the buck, the biggest return on investment? It's as early as possible. In fact, 80% of all brain development happens by the time we're 3. But don't worry, there's still 20% left, Mayor. You got a chance to recover.
Counting on that.
But you know, and it's less the issue that most kids that we know, I mean, they're held, they're coddled, they're sung to, they're not hurt. But there are a lot of kids that aren't. And the harm that comes from really not helping make a child have those brain connections in those very early years creates a lot of harm,
and
a lot of
that's
damage.
what EduCare is about.
And so EduCare, these centers of excellence in early child education, like EduCare, which is in Oklahoma City, and they're building the second EduCare in Oklahoma City. We've got 2 in Tulsa. We're building a 3rd. Actually, Oklahoma will lead the country in having these centers of excellence in early child education. Also, we lead the country in 4-year-old education. 82% of our 4-year-olds in Oklahoma are in pre-kindergarten. It's the highest enrollment in the state, and if there's one bet that I think is going to pay off for us down the line, it's that bet. So,
excuse me, you said highest enrollment in the state or the nation?
Oklahoma has the highest enrollment in the country.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, 82% of our 4-year-olds are in pre-kindergarten, and I think you know we are going to see those returns.
We're going to benefit from that long
That's
term.
not
There's
tomorrow,
no question about
but
it.
a decade from now we're going to start seeing that in better reading scores, better math scores, better achievement.
These 4-year-olds are going to run the world someday.
Absolutely.
Well, they already do.
Absolutely. So we're putting a lot of our money there. We're working closely with the foundation in Oklahoma City. Let
me put it into words and correct me where I steer off course. But basically, EduCare goes into a lower income area and offers early childhood education at the highest level. And so you have extremely talented instructors working in some of the most needy areas. And the idea is to allow this child at birth and in year 1 and year 2 and year 3 and year 4 to get the highest level of pre-kindergarten education that's available. And this intensity, it is believed, will start to break that cycle of poverty.
No, you said it very well. And again, you're starting at 6 weeks old. 6 weeks to 4 essentially is where the EduCare ages are, and the teachers are bachelor degreed, or they have the correct associate's degree. There's parent training. There's income tax assistance to get the earned income tax credit.
And the early returns are very favorable.
Yeah, we're seeing we're doing our own evaluations. We've relied a little bit on historic evaluations of similar programs, which show 12-13% returns, which is a great kind of return for these kind of programs. And our own evidence, we're participating in significant evaluation, expensive kinds of evaluation to test this, because in the long run, if it's not working, we don't want to keep doing it. But the early returns are strong. Our kids, the longer they're in the program, the better they're doing. Also, if you get 3 years of this, they start kindergarten just like a middle-class kid or an upper middle class kid.
One of the takeaways is it's not the kids. I mean, the idea that this cycle of poverty has to continue is just plain wrong. It does not have to continue. The question is, can we afford it as a society? Is there enough foundation money? Is there enough public money overall? And if not, what can we do? You know, if we can't do that high intensity throughout the community, what can we do? Because we can already see that it's maybe our best hope for long-term prospering.
I think again, well put. I mean, I think the bottom line is, you know, children are not preordained to the circumstances of their birth. There is a track of a ladder through education, starting in the earliest years, to be successful. Is it expensive? Yes, it is not cheap. But you know what? It's more expensive not to do it if we're going to pay for it on the back end.
What I'm missing in the connection is, I know George Kaiser Family Foundation provides the funds to support this. Who or what organization or what people actually do it?
We work through, and it's a similar situation in Oklahoma City, we work through our community action provider, our Head Start provider.
Okay.
The Head Start provider receives federal funds, receives state funds. In fact, our state legislature has been a key supporter of this. The delta between just decent child care, decent early education, to excellence is the private layer. And we're providing that with others. The Inasmuch Foundation, the Schusterman family, Chesapeake has assisted us, et cetera. So we have other partners to do this. You know, down the line, I think our hope would be to prove that the results are so compelling that the public sector does more. and says this is better investment than incarceration. This is better investment maybe than than universities.
You mentioned incarceration. Let's jump to female incarceration. We touched on it last segment briefly, but we can all only assume there are large societal costs to incarcerating a woman, especially if she is part of a family. Right. And there might be kids that are dependent on that, and then what happens to them in the not to mention the cost of the incarceration itself. And if we have such a high percentage of female incarceration, what are we doing differently?
Yeah.
And so what, as a foundation, can you do about that? Because this is the penal system. What can you do?
We've really worked on intervening in two ways. One is to develop a program in Tulsa County, which they're now replicating in Oklahoma County, again, in partnership with foundations in Oklahoma City, foundations in Tulsa. It's called here Women in Recovery in the Tulsa area. And we've worked very closely with our judges and ultimately with the DA's office. And basically when a woman is arrested for a nonviolent crime and is facing over 5 to 10 years imprisonment for that crime, the judge will often give that woman a chance to participate in a year-long, highly intensive program that we sponsor with Family and Children Services here in Tulsa. The women start with an ankle bracelet. They're doing intensive therapy sessions, intensive education sessions. They have to live in a very clean environment. They're drug tested, I think, twice a week at the beginning. They've got to perform, else they don't get to stay in the program. It's a year-long program, and if they excel in it and put their life back together, they work hard, they go back before the judge after that year, and in just about every case, the judge has said that your sentence has been deferred or some variety of that result. Had that woman been in prison for that year, it would have been about $23,000. In our program, it's not that much cheaper. It's $15,000 to $20,000, but that sentence would have been not 1 year in prison, but 7 to 10 years. So the goal is, will we be able to do something of value in that 1 year, save the county, save the state, save the taxpayers, all that money, meanwhile, make them better citizens. And the women who are in this program, I just checked into a hotel the other day, and one of the women who were in our program did the check-in checked me into the hotel room. So they're working, they're paying taxes, they're reunifying with their kids in a very intensive way. So rather than the lose-lose-lose of incarceration, we're getting some wins.
Well, in that connection, and with those women that perhaps don't qualify initially for that program, the legislature has been active through some of your support in changing some of our laws, have they not?
There's been a great groundswell of support, bipartisan support, to look at the system. In fact, they've been doing it all over the country. Georgia, Texas, et cetera. A whole movement called Right on Crime, which are conservative lawmakers saying, we're not getting the return on our investment the way we're spending this money. So states are looking at doing it smarter, being smart on crime. And I think you can be tough on crime and smart on crime. So we're with the leadership of the Speaker, Chris Steele, in the Senate, Brian Bingman, and Jonathan Nichols, for instance, who helped us a great deal from the Norman area, and the governor's support. Signed in a series of reforms last year, more use of global positioning systems, ankle bracelets for nonviolent offenders rather than just the traditional lock-em-up approach. And then this next session, we're looking at a series of other possible reforms. Again, that'll be very based on the evidence that we help determine over this next 6 months about what's driving our incarceration rate, what's the smartest way to change it without putting people at risk. We have
about 30 seconds left. Are you all politically involved at the legislature? Do you all have, does that come out of your office if they are, or is that somewhere else?
One opportunity we have as a foundation is we can be involved in advocacy. And so we have a presence at the legislature. We believe that's important. We put together an agenda every year. We're there, we're talking to our lawmakers, and we're trying to influence things for the better.
All right. Ken Levit, our guest, congratulations on all the great work for the George Kaiser Family
Foundation. We got to have you
Foundation.
back. We didn't get near enough
you're
covered.
Anytime, and it's great having such good partners on both sides of the state, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, et cetera.
You're doing great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
In Oklahoma, we enjoy a high quality of life due to good, well-paying jobs. Commercial real estate professionals play a significant role in bringing new businesses and investments to Oklahoma. The commercial real estate community has come together to market Oklahoma's commercial properties nationwide through a free public website, okcommercialproperty.com. We are invested in keeping Oklahoma strong and growing because economic development ensures quality of life.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the Set of the Verdict. We are wrapping up a show with Ken Levit. He runs the George Kaiser Family Foundation.
Yes, Ken has a varied background with just excellent skills in many areas. Every place he's been successful, and no surprise that he's successful at the George Kaiser Family Foundation. We're doing wonderful things for the city of Tulsa, for the state of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City is included, of course. And we just wish them well in their endeavors.
We have a website that you can go to find out more information on the George Kaiser Family Foundation. It is, off their initials, gkff.org. That's gkff.org to find out more about the George Kaiser Family Foundation. Also, we'd like to send you to our website, theverdict.tv. You can go to our website and talk to us about a show that you'd like to see on an upcoming edition of The Verdict. And we're going to be doing our next two shows from Tulsa as well.
Yes, the next two shows will be coming from right here in the Cox Studios in Tulsa, and we appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
Go to our website, because I do pay attention to it. I don't know whether you do or not, but I do.
And we will see you next week with another show on The Verdict. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.